From Arkadelphia, Arkansas, this is Midwest Sports Saturday. Hi, I'm Joey McWilliams, and it is a beautiful campus and a great place to watch a football game. Carpenter Haywood Stadium, Ruggles Field, and the Henderson State Reddies are ready to play today. So let's get right into this. Again, I'm Joey McWilliams. I am joined right now by Cyrus Wittig, who is the play-by-play voice of the Henderson State Reddies. Cy, thank you very much for taking time and coming down here and joining us on what has turned out to be a nice day and a great field.
Thank you so much for having me. You're absolutely right. 24 hours ago, this field looked more like a lake. They drained 18 inches of sitting water out of this field, and 24 hours ago, this game may have been in doubt, but the sun's shining right now, and I'm ready to get this one going.
I wanted to have some pictures, and I think we may do that and put some on the website a little bit later on, pictures from what it looked like yesterday. I got a call from the Director of Athletic Communications here, David Sally. Mm-hmm. Wonderful guy. David, thank you, by the way, for all of your help in getting things set up for me and for Midwest Sports Saturday today. And it was about 3 in the afternoon. I'm picking kids up after school, mm-hmm. and he said, Joey, I don't want to panic you. But the place that you're set to, have your all of your broadcast and your mobile studio is under about 8 inches of water.
Yeah.
So it's amazing to think that we're going to see some good football today.
Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it. This should be a very interesting matchup. It's funny the way that Henderson State, has really dominated Oklahoma schools in the Great American Conference, to the exception of this Northwestern Oklahoma State Rangers team. They've had the Reddies number the last 2 years, 36-30 at Carpenter Haywood Stadium, Ruggles Field 2 years ago, 2017, and then Northwestern Oklahoma stormed back to beat the Reddies 30-24 last year. And with so much turnover in college football, and especially the D2 level, very few of the Reddies coaching staff have ever beaten this Rangers team. Obviously Coach Maxfield has a winning record, but you look at the defensive coordinator, Greg Holsworth has not. Their offense coordinator, Hayden Hawk, has not. I, in my time at Henderson State as a part of the broadcast crew, have not beaten this Rangers team. And they come in here, they should come in here with a lot of confidence. And Henderson State's going to have to play a good game if they want to, win this one and go 4-0 and go 4-1. Excuse me.
It really is amazing to think about. Mm. Obviously, Coach Maxfield and his tenure here, he's seen a lot of winning, but to think about that and what the Rangers have done, and we're going to get a chance to get to talk about Northwestern a little bit later on. But let's talk about the Reddies offense. I think it does begin with Richard Stametti.
I think so too. I think again, going back to that continuity, that's something. It's a rare. It's a bit of a treat this year for Henderson State. The Reddies have had so much success, dating back to kind of the Kevin Rodgers days. I know you're going to speak to Kevin later on. Coordinators and everybody who came to Henderson State, they got a new job because they were so successful. And with some turnover, Henderson State going into this year, finally has their quarterback. There are 2 main running backs. The receivers kind of back and working with Coach Hawk, and it's been a really exciting time, to watch this Henderson State offense really take off and go to new heights from what they were last year. Obviously, a stumble last week against Harding, arguably the best defense in the country. But Henderson State, they have a lot of weapons with Logan Moraney, Corral Hall, and then Elliott Curry. He has come into the league and really just kind of taken this league by storm. 5 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to watching him play today, and hopefully he can get back on track and get back into the end zone for the Reddies today.
Curry, a transfer from Central Oklahoma, played in the MIAA prior to coming in to being in, as you mentioned, coming into the league, the Great American Conference here. And really, I think that goes a long way for what Stametti does, is to be able to have those quality receivers like that. In Kevin Rodgers' time, and I know we're here at Henderson State right now, you have to drop Kevin Rodgers' name.
Especially this weekend. He went under the Hall of Honor last night. So
in his time, not only was he a fantastic quarterback, but he had some great receivers. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things. We talked about Barrett Renner last week prior to the Southern Arkansas Tech game. Fantastic quarterback, had some great receivers. Yes. And this is making a difference now for what Stametti's doing.
Absolutely. You look at the receivers that Kevin Rodgers threw to, guys like Darius Davis, out of the backfield, Jaquan Cole. The list goes on and on. I don't think, obviously, Elliott Curry, just 1 year of eligibility here at Henderson State. He's not going to be able to touch some of the records in the career records, but by the time he graduates from HSU, some of his single season records could be mistaken for career records. He's been so impressive so far, and it's going to be really interesting to see what the Rangers do to slow him down, whether that's play some bracket coverage, really bump him at the line of scrimmage and take those easy throws away, because Curry, he's a guy that he can beat you with his legs, 30 yards down the field. He can also catch it 5 yards and run some people over, as we've seen in the first 4 weeks of the season. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Curry does. And then also Curry, really opens things up for Chase Lodry, who's a really talented receiver as well. Lodry, I think, would be, probably the number one receiver at a lot of other schools in the GAC. But with Curry, he gets a lot of opportunities because Curry demands so much attention.
Speaking now with Cyrus Wittig here on Midwest Sports Saturday, which is presented this Saturday by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. We'll have an opportunity to see a little bit more from them, appreciate them being one of our exclusive sponsors for this week as well, and one of our premier sponsors, the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And Cyrus, now, obviously the team is doing well. The Reddies 3-1, as you mentioned, going up against a tough Harding team.
Sure.
A 14-13 loss last week. 2 stops on fourth down.
Yep.
One of them, and I was watching the video during that game while it was going on, a stop on the goal line, and where the official placed the ball was it could not have been more than an inch away from the goal line. So an amazing stop by this defense. I think we always talk about offense when we talk about the Reddies. Talk about the D.
You're absolutely right. That play kind of overshadows the fact that there was another time where the Reddies stopped Harding within the 5-yard line. The Reddies defense played their best game of the season, no doubt about it, against Harding, and did enough to win that game. Unfortunately, like you said, a 14-13 loss against one of the best defenses in the nation. But you're right. The defense surprisingly kind of has stolen the headlines for the Reddies in the last 2 or 3 weeks. You look back after the Oklahoma Baptist game, which the Reddies ran out to a big lead and dropped into a little bit more of a prevent. The Reddies have not allowed a fourth quarter point in 3 straight weeks. They have not allowed a multiple scoring drives in 3 straight weeks in the second half. This defense, I don't think they have the superstar personnel, guys like Cam Sanye and Malik Brown, who really made a lot of headlines last year, but they have a lot of depth, and they believe in each other. They believe in what they're doing. I sat down with the defensive coordinator, Greg Holsworth, yesterday, and he said guys are really starting to flip the page in terms of that belief, really fly around to the ball and make plays for themselves, but also for each other. And it was really evident in the Harding game today, and obviously making a big transition from the triple option back to kind of a read option shotgun set with the Rangers. But I'm excited to see what this defense can do with the momentum they built despite the setback last Saturday. That's
something that you talk about, playing Harding 1 week and then anybody else the next week. And the preparations on defense have to be adjusted so radically from 1 week to another. And with Northwestern coming in, dropping back, throwing the ball, and they have a good running game as well.
They do.
But you talked about making headlines, and I'll tell you what, I don't know if they have a crop duster ready to do a flyby here.
I'm not sure. He's a little bit early if it's a flyover.
It's across the street at Ouachita. They're having homecoming today, and getting things ready to get started there. Their game will kick off at 1 o'clock. We'll talk about that. We're going to get to hear from the play-by-play voice today of the Northwestern Oklahoma State Reddies. A different gentleman sitting. He's moving his seat over. We'll talk about that with him. But you talked about making headlines, and one other person, too, I think that's making and can be making some more headlines, Colby Turner.
Colby Turner, a transfer from Hutchinson Community College, was on the team last season, but again, played behind guys like Cam Sanye and didn't get a chance to really emerge and show what he could do. First game of the season, I believe, 13 tackles against Oklahoma Baptist, and really set the tempo in that game, flying around horizontally, north, south, east, west, everywhere. He was all around the ball in the football field. And Colby's such a talented player, and just makes the right play. A smart player, knows the playbook like the back of his hand. And when you study the playbook like he does, he's always in a position to make the play, and that's more than half the battle, as you know, in football. And I think Colby, is jettisoned really by, again, going back to that linebacker depth. Henderson State can rotate, guys like Jacob Neal, he's a true freshman and playing big minutes. He'll start today. But guys like Colby, because he can get a breather, and take every fourth or fifth series off in the first half, he can be ready to play in the fourth quarter in crunch time and really make some big plays. So I'm looking forward to see what he can do today.
Well, it should be a big game this afternoon, again, taking place on the field right behind us, and that is set to get underway in a little more than an hour and a half now. So that will be Henderson State 3-1 taking on Northwestern Oklahoma, 2-2, both overall records and Great American Conference records. Si, thank you so much for
Absolutely.
taking time
Thank you so
with
much.
me today.
A pleasure.
And really quickly, then, prediction.
It's going to be it's going to be a tight one. I think I think this is going to be a lot of offense. Both teams have big playability. I'm taking the Reddies 31-27.
All right. 31-27. Lots of points then.
That's right.
I would expect that today as well. That's Cyrus Wittig, the play-by-play voice of the Northwestern Reddies. Thank you very much, sir. And we look ahead now. We'll go through a couple more things on the Division II schedule. Get a chance to look at that. And I know that looks like Dustin is going to come over here. He'll take your spot then.
Sure.
So if you'll trade out with him, I would appreciate that. I know you have a pregame too.
Well, we'll get to that in a little bit.
All right.
I got some time.
You got some time, and the field is dry.
The field is dry. That's most important. Again, thanks so much for having me.
All right, Cy Wittig here on Midwest Sports Saturday, which is presented by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma, and Dustin's going to come right on up here too. As we look just a little bit here at this schedule, a couple of other games taking place in the GAC today. Southern Nazarene at number 22 Harding. We talked about the Bisons, and also it going on across the street here, or across the ravine, if you will. Here in Arkadelphia is Southeastern Oklahoma taking on Ouachita Baptist. And right now, I have sitting next to me, and make sure I get him up here, it is Dustin Goodno. Now, I said you were the play-by-play voice today. Today you're the play-by-play voice.
That is correct.
But you're on the broadcast anyway, right?
Yes, sir. Typically, I am doing color commentary for Matt Ader, who could not make it today. So this is actually my second game of the year to do play-by-play. I did the opening game at East Central. He's done the last two. And then I'll get this one today.
All right. Well, hey, listen, I like Matt. I'm glad to get to see you today, too, though. Thanks for stopping by.
Thanks for allowing me to be on the show.
As Dustin now gets to talk a little bit about Northwestern, we've heard about the Reddies so far, and really, again, just getting to play this game today, knowing what was down on the field a little bit earlier, I think is fantastic. That it's just, we're going to be able to do this. You think about the monsoon-like rains that came through here yesterday. Have you had a chance to walk around on that field? It is nice.
I have, and it is. You're absolutely right. Again, we are kind of lucky to get this in today, and it's going to be a beautiful day for football. I mean, you look at the weather. We actually drove through a lot of it, getting to Arkadelphia all the way from Alva, again, one of our longer trips of the year. But you have to look at it. It's going to be a beautiful day. I think it's going to be mid-80s, so
right.
Definitely warm. So
and the humidity's down some, and that really goes a long way. And so we've made it through the month of September. So here we are, first Saturday in October on Midwest Sports Saturday, presented by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. There's pretty powerful offense on the field on both sides today, and I believe led out there from the Rangers side by Trent Easley.
It is. Trent Easley, again, has done a very good job. The quarterback play the last couple of games. Had some struggles early on the road at East Central. Again, his first start. But I think since then he's gotten a lot better. Had a little bit, a couple tough games again at the beginning of the year, but he's gotten much better against the second half of Ouachita Baptist. Then you look at what he did a week ago, by far his most efficient game, and I think the reason for that is the balanced attack of Northwestern now is starting to come to fruition, because the running game had struggled early in the season, but it was so much better against Arkansas Monticello, rushing for nearly 200 yards.
Well, and listen, okay, you can't go anywhere then in the Rangers offense without talking about that rushing game. Jacob Payton, is it now his 8th year, 9th year in the program?
Yeah,
has he been around that long? It does seem like that long. I was still calling Southeastern games when he was a freshman and just really burst onto the scene. I mean, he is a fantastic back. Not real big, but he just finds a way to just keep moving those legs and get the ball down the field.
He does, and the one thing is he is not afraid of contact whatsoever. He will run you over if he thinks he can, and he did that a week ago. He's such a strong runner, and not only that, to have Jacob Payton with what he can do in between the tackles, then you look at bringing in Callion Baker and a totally different back because of his speed and getting to the edge. I mean, it makes for a very good 1-2 punch in the backfield for Northwestern.
When you talk about Northwestern football, and I think specifically then with Coach Matt Walter having come in, and in his tenure there, you have to talk about the defense as well. And there is always just a superstar just waiting to be seen on this defensive side, and we've seen some big names come through. You talk about the defense, let's talk about Maurice Wright Jr.
You have to. Maurice Wright has been a fantastic player for this defense, again, having another spectacular season at linebacker. And, last week, you look at it, teams are obviously trying to run away from him, but somehow he just finds his way to the football. Still had 15 tackles a week ago. But again, he's really led by the entire linebacking core. I think that's the strength of Northwestern's defense. with Dakota Driscoll out, James Ellis has stepped up and has been a fantastic player. Justin Van Fleet. So, I mean, they've got a lot of weapons at the linebacker spot for this defense.
I know that you have to go do your pregame here in just a moment. So, again, thank you, Dustin, for stopping by here at Midwest Sports Saturday, presented by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Really quickly, a prediction then from you.
Well, I think it's going to be a defensive game. I do. Northwestern's defense has been playing so good as of late, and holding opponents. Had the shutout last week against Monticello. But again, they're going up against arguably the best offense in the conference. So I'm going to go 23-20 Northwestern in a close one.
Okay. Now, see, I'm going to lean more toward the offensive side. I think these two offenses are going to be able to exert themselves today. Not necessarily a prediction, but you're going 23-20. You have both of you all having a close game.
Yes, very close.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Dustin Goodno. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. The play-by-play voice today, ordinarily color analyst for the Northwestern Rangers, and we appreciate him stopping by. Well, let's look at some other things here on the schedule, and we're going to have one more visitor with us here today at Henderson State. Again, a fantastic day, a very, very nice day for football. Crowd getting set here. Of course, you may be able to hear across the way. Football is, it's about half an hour from kickoff for Ouachita Baptist taking on Southeastern. So we get a chance maybe here. Let's look at some other games on the schedule. Division II games on the schedule today. And you look at ranked teams within the MidwestSports.net regional footprint. It starts with Southeastern at number 6, Ouachita, and the Tigers 61.2% on third down conversion rate. That is good enough for tops in all of Division II. 2 for 2 on fourth down when they've had to go for it on fourth down. The Tigers 4-0 and just cruising through the Great American Conference right now. Southeastern, as we mentioned, taking on Ouachita. It is now number 7, Northwest Missouri, on the road today at Emporia State. Northwest Missouri, 40.5 yards per kickoff return. That is tops in Division II. And this is an offense there with the Bearcats that, with Braden Wright just continuing to roll. And Northwest Missouri also undefeated on the year. But if you start already in the opponent's territory or pretty close to midfield, you don't have that much to work with to just move the ball down the field and score. That's a fantastic way to get it done. Oh, by the way, 3 in the country, 52 points per contest for the Bearcats. It's number 11 Indianapolis at William Jewell up in Liberty today. William Jewell still looking for a victory. Lincoln at number 15 Pittsburgh State. It is number 17 Central Missouri taking on Missouri Southern today. The Mules 4-0 and number 17 in the country lead that series 23-15-2. But it's just 8-8-1 when the game is played in Joplin. The Mules putting up 562.8 yards of total offense. That's number 2 in Division II. 323 passing yards per game as Brook Bulls leading the way there. 5th in Division II. 52.8 points per game, and that's good enough for number 4 in the NCAA. Number 22 Harding at home taking on Southern Nazarene today. Harding 3-1, only loss coming against Ouachita, and that goes back to week 1. A very, very tight contest. You look at this again. That week 1 matchup with Harding and Ouachita, very, very likely the GAC championship game, de facto championship game back in week 1. I know there's still lots of football left to be played, but that's what it really is shaping up to look like. It's interesting how the schedule falls sometime. Harding, 295.3 rushing yards per contest, second in the country. One of the toughest schedules in the country as well. And again, taking on Ouachita right off the bat. Henderson State within the first 3 games of the season. Harding getting it done. Very much a front-loaded schedule there for the Bisons, holding opponents to just 7.3 points per game. Southwest Baptist on the road at Truman, and Truman, the Bulldogs, their scoring defense, they're holding opponents just 10.0 points per game. That's good enough for number 4 in Division II. And we talked about some of these teams. Let's look at these that we've mentioned there. Truman receiving votes in the AFCA Division II poll. Ouachita, number 6. Northwest Missouri State, number 7. Pitt State, number 15. Central Missouri, number 17. Those 5 teams are all undefeated. Only 25 teams in all of Division II remain undefeated 4 weeks into the season, and those 5 teams within our MidwestSports.net area. It is Southwestern taking on Southern Arkansas today. Southwestern coming off a tough 5-point loss against that Ouachita team, 26-21. Southwestern at 2-2, trying to take on, or will be taking on Southern Arkansas a little bit later on this afternoon. The Mule Riders 4-0 against Southwestern all time in Magnolia. It's Oklahoma Baptist, a team that's really come alive, 2-2. And has been in every game. 2-2, got the big win over East Central last week, 50-41, prompting Preston Hare to be the GAC Offensive Player of the Week, passing for 312 yards. He rushed for 69 yards as well, had 4 total touchdowns. Isaiah Mallory with 169 yards rushing and a touchdown as well. Oklahoma Baptist at Arkansas Tate. We were at Russellville last week, Midwest Sports Saturday, presented by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And the Wonder Boys still looking for the first win of the season. It's East Central at Arkansas Monticello. East Central's Ontario Douglas with 8 rushing touchdowns for the year. That's second in Division II. Had 189 yards rushing against Oklahoma Baptist last week in that loss. It's Northern State at Upper Iowa. Now, the Peacocks are 0-4 on the season, looking for the first win of the year. It's a tough time to try to get a win against Northern State. However, it is homecoming in Fayette today, and the Peacocks own a 5-2 all-time record over Northern State. So maybe, just maybe, history is on the side of Upper Iowa. Fort Hays State at Central Oklahoma today. This was an interesting game last year. The Tigers pitched the shutout. It's a 15-0 win. 5 Dante Brown field goals. No touchdowns scored in this one. 5 Dante Brown field goals in the 15-0 win. Fort Hays State 2-2. I would say a disappointing 2-2 because the Tigers, back-to-back champions in the MIAA, were picked number 1 and number 2 in the coaches and media polls preseason. 2-2, they've dropped out of the top 25 after losing the first 2 contests of the season. Central Oklahoma 2-2. It's been kind of a tough schedule so far. 3.5 penalties per game. That's all the Broncos give. Very clean ball for Coach Nick Bobeck, and that is good enough for number 1. That's at the top of the charts in Division II. UCO leads the series 7-5, but Fort Hays State has won the last 4. So the Broncos trying to put a stop to that. Missouri Western at Washburn today. It is Lindenwood at McKendree today. Quincy on the road taking on Missouri S&T. And the Miners have won 3 straight. They're 3-1 on the year. Beat William Jewell last week, 41-27. That was a Sunday game. It wound up being a Sunday game as the game was delayed by weather and went on to be played on Sunday. Miners get the win. It's homecoming in Rolla. 503.8 yards of total offense for the Miners this year. That's tops in the Great Lakes Valley Conference. Southwest Baptist at Truman. We mentioned the Bulldogs. The Bulldogs giving up just 10 points per game, number 4 in Division II. And Truman at 4-0. It's Chadron State taking on Western Colorado. The Eagles, a tough loss last week, trying to pick up the victory on the road. They lost on homecoming. Minnesota Crookston at Wayne State. Wayne State, the Wildcats, tied for the 3rd toughest schedule in Division II. Tied with Harding, by the way. Just a really, really brutal way to open the schedule and the season in the Northern Sun for Wayne State. And it's Northeastern State trying to pick up its first victory of the year. The Riverhawks on the road taking on the Lopers, Kearney. And it's homecoming in Kearney today. So that is a look at the Division II schedule. We scroll on down really quickly here. Rhodes on the road at Hendricks. This is in Division III. It's Central receiving votes in the AFCA Division III football poll at Luther today. Central College 3-0 on the year, undefeated. And this will be the first road game of the year. All 3 contests for the Dutch have been at home. Co taking on Dubuque today. Grinnell on the road at St. Norbert. It's Iowa Wesleyan at Crown. Simpson at Nebraska Wesleyan. Number 13, Wartburg. The Knights are on the road taking on Buena Vista, and Wartburg is 4-0 on the year. North Park is at Washington. Let's go ahead and look at the Division I schedule while we're here and waiting for our final guest of the early afternoon now. And it's a different start time, by the way, for Midwest Sports Saturday, presented by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. As we are into a early afternoon start time, kickoff now at 2 o'clock as we move into the October portion of the schedule. Number 6, Oklahoma on the road at Kansas. Game started a little bit earlier, 0-0 headed into the second quarter. Iowa at Michigan today. Michigan had a 10-0 lead just before the first quarter was over, as Iowa has won 5 of the last 6 against Michigan. Michigan. Michigan favored in this one. Oklahoma State, number 21 in the country, taking on Texas Tech on the road at Lubbock. Chuba Hubbard, 935 rushing yards today, leads the nation in nearly every statistical category in rushing, including, and get this, rushing yards per game, rushing touchdowns, all-purpose yards, yards after contact, yes, I'm still going, yards per carry, and running plays of at least 10 yards, 20 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards, 50 yards, 60 yards, 70 yards, and yes, 80 yards. Leads the country in running plays of at least 80 yards. Chuba Hubbard. And you have to say, there are some pretty good candidates for the Heisman Trophy hanging around in the state of Oklahoma in Division I. Let's take a moment then and look really quickly. We want to say thanks to our sponsor today. Today's sponsor is the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma.
You got this. You're ready.
Back here at Arkadelphia, I'm Joey McWilliams here on Midwest Sports Saturday, presented today by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Let's look at a little bit more from the news around the Midwest Sports region, and we're look all the way down here in NCAA news. The Women of the Year finalists, 9 finalists for Woman of the Year, in 2018, 2019, and 2 in the region. From University of Nebraska Division I's Angela Mercurio, and from Southwestern Oklahoma State University, it is Haley Tucker, 2 of the 9 finalists for NCAA Woman of the Year. That's all divisions, and doing a great job. By the way, here at Henderson State, let's talk about a little bit of golf. Nick Shapiro for the Reddies on Monday shot a 64 at the Kentucky Wesleyan Fall Invitational. The Reddies shot a 572 overall, 20 strokes behind Central Missouri, took the title, but Shapiro finished 9th individually with a 64, carded that on Monday. And also, let's talk a little volleyball here, okay? Nebraska Kearney up to 14-0 and dropped a spot in the AVCA Division II poll, falling to number 4 this week. Got the big victory over Central Missouri on Thursday, moving to 14-0, playing another very tough team, not only within conference, but also a top 25 team today, as they are facing Northwest Missouri. 12-1 on the year are the Bearcats, 14-0 the Lopers, so this is a big match today. In NAI volleyball, number 1 Missouri Baptist lost for the first time in 19 matches. Now, Missouri Baptist fell to what is now number 6 Park, but don't forget, Park is the defending national champions. This is a very, very tough conference, the American Midwest, and Park not only defeating Missouri Baptist, MoBap gets swept by the Pirates. So Missouri Baptist falling now to 18-4 on the year after an 18-game winning streak. Park now 18-2 overall. Number 6, we'll see how the next poll shapes out. And by the way, from the world of volleyball, back to Division II in the NCAA, it is Southwestern Oklahoma's Caitlin Dillon who recorded her 2,000th dig in a loss to Oklahoma Baptist on Thursday night. The first player in Southwestern Oklahoma State University history to record 2,000 digs overall, and only the 4th player in GAC history to do that as well. We look now at NAI football on Midwest Sports Saturday, presented by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Morningside, the top seed in the country, is at home. Now, I talked about Chuba Hubbard and some of the categories that Hubbard leads in rushing overall. If you think about Morningside, 3-0, tops in the country in, are you ready? Here we go with another list. Third down conversion success, 64.3%. Field goals conversion, made all the field goals attempted. Passing yards per contest, 382.3 yards per contest. And Joe Dolencheck just continuing to light it up through the air as Reed Juergensmeyer, his top receiver, continuing to do well as well for the Mustangs. This Morningside offense has allowed 0 sacks. Again, a testament to the offensive line for Morningside. First down per game, tops in the country, 28.3 first downs per game. Total offense per appearance, 618 yards per game. Okay, now think about that. Through 3 games this season, Morningside has racked up nearly 1,850 yards of total offense and scoring per outing 62.3 points per game. So at 15-0 last year, have the Morningside Mustangs dropped off any at all? It certainly doesn't look like it. The big game of the day has to be number 2 Benedictine hosting Grandview as the Vikings travel to take on the Ravens, and this should be a very good contest as well. I'm going to welcome in our final guest of the morning as Kevin Rodgers comes on in and gets to sit next to me here on Midwest Sports Saturday, again presented by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And Kevin, come on in here. It's good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, I'm very glad to have you here with us this morning, and we really appreciate that. Looking here, we had a chance to visit last year prior to the Ouachita contest, the Battle of the Ravine.
Yes, sir.
And so I appreciate you getting to visit. Now, I mean, hey, we get the real deal today, so
that's right, yeah.
That's all right. You have recently, and all the official parts of it taking place today and this week, been inducted now into the Henderson State Hall of Honor. Talk about that.
I mean, what a great experience. First of all, I'm humbled and blessed to be inducted into such a prestigious honor and Hall of Honor. It's lots of great athletes are in there throughout Henderson's storied history, and we had a great event last night, a great banquet. I had a teammate that was inducted as well, Sean McGrath, and you know, when someone has success, there's usually a crowd of people behind them or her supporting that person on their way to their success. And so, you know, I have so many people to thank, my teammates, coaches, and family members, and I thanked them all last night. But they know who they are, and I'm just,
they should.
I'm just, yeah, and I'm just lucky. And I'm just, you know, happy to be here. Couldn't believe it. So.
Well, it's nice to be here a beautiful first Saturday in October.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like to be back out there on the field again?
Yeah, this is probably one of the first times that I've truly missed it, you know, after being away from the game for a couple of years and taking a break. It's
you're not only away from the game, you're away from Henderson State. Where are you now?
Right. So I'm north of Tampa in Palm Harbor, Florida. And I'll make a trip back there every now and then to play in like a golf tournament. But yeah, I'm down there, and that's where we're living currently. But yeah, and especially being around the atmosphere and the people. I've always loved the people around Henderson. I think that's the ready spirit in and of itself. Is the people, and I'm not gonna lie, yeah, I do miss it. It was a fun time preparing for those games, and I enjoyed the preparation up to the week, and I enjoyed the game and after the game, and then all of the things that came with it, and the experiences that I had were second to none. So
the Reddies walked by. During commercial just a moment ago, the football team picked the perfect time to walk by at that point in time. So walking into the stadium, getting ready for all of that, I know that there's just nothing like that.
Right. It's definitely a unique tradition to Henderson State. We call it the Ready Walk, and it was going on when I was here, long before I was here, and it's just kind of one of those things that pumps you up before the game. You got the band out there, cheerleaders are out there, your family can be lined up alongside, and they're cheering you on. It's just kind of get your mind ready for the game, and that's that moment when you walk into the locker room and you know that everything else is shut out, and this is your moment for the game. So it's a unique tradition that I like it.
You know, when you departed the game through graduation, they give you only so much eligibility.
That's right.
So, you know, your eligibility had come and gone. GAC titles, individual records. When you stepped out, number 5 all-time in Division II in passing yards. I think you're number 6 now overall. Not through any fault of yours. Records are, I guess, they are made to be broken. But so much that you did on the field, but off the field as well. And that's something I'd always heard about you, watching you from a good distance away, but that you're as good a guy off the field as you are on the field. A BCM leader during your time here. I'm sure you worked with the FCAs as well. Talk about what you were doing off the field, because you still have the now you get even more time to do that.
Right. It was very important to me to not only be a football player. I know I was known for that, and that was a huge part of my identity. Even after playing, I think when you're done playing football, it's hard to find your identity after that. But I wanted to be an example off the field, and I wasn't perfect, and I don't think anybody is. But
no, and that's okay.
That is okay. Right. It's okay. And I wanted to be real to people, and I didn't want to be a figure. I just wanted to be a person just like everybody else. And I think having an influence in the position that I was in through the BCM, through different groups, through the School of Business, Alpha Kappa Psi, Business Fraternity, did some work, and I think we did, when a tornado hit in Mayflower and Bologna during that time. I think it was 2013 when that happened in the spring. I just felt the need to go up there and help, and put together a group of guys, and we drove up there and we just started helping, and it kind of blew up into this big thing. But I just always had a heart for that, and I try to carry that into my life now. And it just brings me a lot of fulfillment and joy, and I think it helps keep me well-rounded and grounded while I'm away from football.
All right, well, Kevin, should be a good game today. I mean, it really should. It's 3-1, the Reddies, and they're dropping your name a little bit more for what Stemeti's doing. For Richard Stemeti, the senior quarterback, he's lighting things up through the air, and so I'm sure there are a lot of comparisons. I'm sure you probably heard things as well, but this offense is doing well. Taking on a Northwestern team that's had the Reddies number over the last couple of years, what do you expect to see today?
I expect a good game, and like you were saying, I've talked to Richie before, and he is a great guy, and Coach Hayden Hawk, the offensive coordinator, knows what he's doing, and he has a great offense in place. I love what they're doing. It reminds me of, a little bit of what we were doing, but I think they're more multiple. They have more steps, so to speak, that they can work from, and they're more well-rounded as a team. And I think that's good. That adds another element to prepare for. Northwest Oklahoma is a good team. I think if the Reddies come out and execute, and they do what they were supposed to do this week, I think they'll come out on top. But Northwest Oklahoma is a good team, and their defense plays well, and they sling it around on offense. I know they have a mobile quarterback, and that's not always something I couldn't do. So you always have to respect that. That adds another element to prepare for. So I expect a good game, but of course I'm biased. I got to go with them.
You got to go.
I think they'll come out on top.
Do you have a prediction?
Ooh, a scoring prediction?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
The score? Okay. I think it's going to be.
He's looking at the scoreboard right now.
I'm trying to visualize.
Okay.
That's a big part of being. You got to visualize.
You got to visualize it.
I think it's going to be 38 to 28.
Okay, points on the board.
Reddies on top, 38 to 28.
All right. Kevin, thank you so much. I hope we get to visit with you again sometime soon. And even in Tampa, if you're back up this way, I hope to at least by way of the phone, but hopefully face-to-face, you get to sit next to you again. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me on, and I appreciate everything that the GAC has done. I'm always a fan and will always be a part of it, and I love what you're doing here. And just thanks for having me on.
All right. Kevin Rodgers, thank you again, sir. Kevin Rodgers, former quarterback for the Henderson State Reddies, but I would imagine, even as he steps away, can still hear me, I would imagine there's still a little get up and go. You can probably sling the ball a little bit. A little bit. All right. Kevin Rodgers, now in the Hall of Honor for Henderson State. We're going to wrap things up here for this edition of Midwest Sports Saturday presented by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. And I was just talking really quickly. I mentioned that Benedictine hosting Grandview today. Kansas Wesleyan also in the top 25. Idle this week. Next, we'll take on St. Mary. Big matchup today. Oklahoma Panhandle hosting Ottawa from Arizona. And the Spirit in the top 25 and continue to move up. Spirit, got to watch this team, but they're facing Oklahoma Panhandle. This is the first home game of the season for the Aggies. Number 17, Langston at Lyon. It's Graceland at number 18, Evangel, and Clark taking on number 22, Baker. And the Wildcats 2-2 on the year, still in the top 25. This is an opportunity for Baker to get the win over a Clark team, Pride, in its inaugural season. One more matchup here we look at before we close things down here from Arkadelphia. Briar Cliff, 3-2 on the road at Midland today. Chargers having a good season. 7 turnovers, however, in last week's loss to Concordia. Just a 16-14 loss. You give up 7 turnovers, are still in the game. Watch for the Chargers now. Third straight homecoming that Briar Cliff is participating in. Homecoming today at Midland. So we're going to wrap things up here from Arkadelphia. Again, I'm Joey McWilliams. Thanks again for watching Midwest Sports Saturday. We'll be in Shawnee, Oklahoma next Saturday as the Bison of Oklahoma Baptist will play host to the Bisons of Harding. And this could be a good matchup as well. So we're going to be in Shawnee next week on campus at Oklahoma Baptist. Midwest Sports Saturday presented by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. I want to say thanks again to Kevin Rodgers and to Dustin Goodno and to Cyrus Wittig. Also want to say thanks to David Sally and Sean Jones as part of the Henderson State Athletic Department for all of their help in being here. Joseph McWilliams for being with me today and helping me getting everything set up today and for being a part of this trip as well. I'm Joey McWilliams. God bless you. Thanks again. Midwest Sports Saturday presented by the Choctaw Nation of Oklahoma. Have a great one.